Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today we're doing a little emergency episode, taking a look at a 2022 NFL mock draft for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, Matt Ryan gets shipped off to the Indianapolis Colts earlier today for a third-round pick. And quite frankly, this this trade makes sense for both parties. Matt Ryan was getting paid A+ money to be kind of just a B quarterback. And Atlanta just they don't have the roster to really make a playoff push at this time, so it didn't really make sense to have a veteran quarterback being paid that much money on your books. And the Colts, they have a roster to maybe make a playoff push, make a playoff run. And so I think Matt Ryan had a phenomenal career for the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons were relevant for 10 plus years with Matt Ryan, which is a very hard thing to do. It's very hard to be relevant in the NFL football league for NFL football league. That's redundant. It's very hard to be relevant in the NFL for 10 plus years. Matt Ryan made it happen with Atlanta. He had a great career. I consider myself an Atlanta Falcon fan. I've lost a lot of money on Atlanta Falcons every year. I think they're going to be back. They're never back. Let's start. I think we got to start the rebuild. So we're going to take a look at a 2022 NFL mock draft for the Atlanta Falcons, starting the rebuild with pick number 8. So there are a lot of good prospects. I mean, Evan Neal falling to 8. That's a great look. What I'm thinking they should, and they're going to, if Evan Neal's there at 8, you're going to see 16 trade offers. You're going to see a lot of teams that want to trade up for this kind of guy. This is going to get people talking, but I think this might be the pick. I think the Atlanta Falcons go and reach up on Malik Willis. Malik Willis is a guy that he's going to need some time to burn. You got Marcus Mariota for 2 years. I think he's a great guy to sit behind and watch. He reminds me a lot of Josh Allen as a prospect, where he's got elite athleticism, probably a better athlete than Josh Allen, for sure a better athlete than Josh Allen. Just as strong of an arm as Josh Allen. The accuracy, the progressions, those are a lot of question marks. Atlanta's not going to be competitive for the next 2 years. Get Malik Willis, work to develop him. In year 3 of Malik Willis, you guys might have a better roster. That's kind of the goal of this mock draft, kind of fill out a decent roster. And maybe you found your franchise quarterback in Malik Willis and kind of start that franchise and that dynasty that Atlanta was cooking for a while. You kind of start that all over again. Now, I have a lot of questions about Malik Willis, but I think he's the guy that if there's a quarterback in this draft that's going to be a franchise quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in the league, it's going to be Malik Willis with those physical tool sets he has. Now, at 43, there are a lot of good players still available, but I think the Falcons kind of pigeonholed themselves into picking a wide receiver. Calvin Ridley obviously suspended for the whole year. Outside of Calvin Ridley, that wide receiving room, outside of obviously Kyle Pitts at tight end, it's really, really bad. They need to get some sort of talent at that wide receiver position. So when Calvin Ridley comes back, then you got Kyle Pitts on the rookie deal, and then George Pickens. I think George Pickens is probably my favorite wide receiver, and you could even double up on wide receivers, but George Pickens was a guy that was a lock to be a first-round pick. Obviously, you guys in Atlanta know about George Pickens. He's a Georgia Bulldog. You watch this guy as a true freshman. He's a first-round lock. He tears his ACL. He's slipping a little bit in the draft. He worked out great at the combine. He looked solid coming back off 8 months off of a torn ACL. I think you take George Pickens here. You bolster up that wide receiving room. So if Malik Willis gets some burn this year, he's not throwing to kind of a really weak wide receiving core. You kind of need to address that position. Now, pick 58. Now you can start looking at best available. Let's get some really good guys who you're going to hit with and make this roster good again. AJ Terrell at cornerback. You got Casey Hayward. I think you could look at cornerback, but I'm sticking to kind of best available, finding your best prospects who are just going to be really good at the next level. Jamari Salyer is one of those. You guys got Jalen Mayfield. He didn't play. He wasn't great, but I think he's very good. There are some really good linebackers in this group. Channing Tindall, Quay Walker. Do we have Perrion Winfrey available? Because Perrion Winfrey is a guy that I really, really like on the defensive side of the ball. He's not. Fedarian Mathis is, though. How about edge? I mean, the what Atlanta needs to work on the defense is just getting pressure on the quarterback. It's kind of been their Achilles heel. They've been really bad in the run game. They've been really bad rushing the quarterback. Kind of, I think they're 29 in sacks, only behind like the Detroit Lions. Does Nick Bonito fit the scheme that well? Probably not. But picking Nick Bonito here at 58, he might be one of the best. He is one of the best pure edge rushers in the class. Go get a guy with his get off is phenomenal. He's got long hands. He's bendy. Problem is he great against the run? There's a lot of question marks about that. I think you go get a guy who's that talented, though, and you work with them. Again, you're picking guys who can develop into stud football players later on. You're not drafting for immediate impact. I'm not saying tank, but I'm saying go get guys who are going to progress to be great football players. Brian Asamoah is another guy who's absolutely awesome. I really like Dalen Parham too. It doesn't hurt to probably start looking at that offensive line again. How are we going to build that up? Jamari Salyer not on the board. That hurts. Justin Schaefer, another Georgia Bulldog. He's a guy that I like. Let's go take a look at this big board again. How the wide receivers? Because I don't think it's crazy to double up on the wide receivers. Christian Watson's a guy that I love. Wayndell Robinson's a guy that I love. Especially when you're looking to replace maybe a Russell Gage. Christian Watson's probably the pick here. 6'4", runs a 4.3 40. You got George Pickens, Kyle Pitts, Christian Watson. Those guys are some absolute elite big bodies. To give Malik Willis some really big targets to work with. And if Calvin Ridley comes back, he's on Atlanta next year, you got more of that separator. I think this is a position where you could double up on. I mean, just looking at this wide receiving room, it is extremely weak. Adding George Pickens, adding Christian Watson is a really, really good get. Let's take a look at these linebacking class because this is kind of the sweet spot for the linebackers. And we kind of missed it. I really like a few of those linebackers. Brian Asamoah was kind of the last one that I really liked. Another guy you might want to look at is Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones from Houston is just an absolute electric factory. He's a great special teamer. I know you got Cordero Patterson, so you kind of got the special teams box checked. But A.J. Terrell, Casey Hayward, you throw Marcus Jones in the slot. I mean, listen, having nickel cornerbacks, being able to play good football in the nickel is very important in the kind of a pass-heavy NFL landscape. Marcus Jones, there's not many guys from the nickel position who are going to put their fingerprints all over the game like a Marcus Jones will. I think he's going to be an elite slot cornerback at the next level. I'm very comfortable picking him here at what? We got 82. Now, the Falcons don't have another pick for a while. Looking at our draft right now, we got two wide receivers. We got hopefully our franchise quarterback who can develop with the George Pickens and Christian Watson, two of my favorite wide receivers in the class. And then we get probably one of the more stronger edge rushers in Nick Bonito. I think Zach Tom, as a Wake Forest alum, I'm a huge fan of Zach Tom. I tell this story all the time. This dude is an absolute genius. We would sit in Latin class. Very quiet kid. Professor would ask us a question. Seminar. We got like 12 of us in a circle. Anybody know the answer? None of us know the answer. Zach Tom just has his head down in his book. Zach, do you know the answer? Knew it every time. This guy, 4.0 GPA at Wake, I believe. I know it was very, very high. Played center for most of the year because he was kind of undersized. And then they ended up moving him out to left tackle for his last 2 years simply because he was the best offensive lineman on the team. I think he can play inside at center. And I also think he can play tackle. So you're getting a guy who's versatile. You're getting a high character dude who's a two-time captain at Wake Forest. And a guy who's extremely, extremely smart and gets the game of football. He was playing left tackle, calling out protections for Wake Forest. I mean, that is extremely impressive. Again, you want to build up that offensive line. Go get a guy who is not only a high character dude, but extremely versatile, who can play center, who can play tackle, can do it both at a high level. He tested well. He's really filled out that frame. You look at when he was playing as I believe, a redshirt freshman, was getting snaps in at center. He just looked undersized. He looked small and undersized. He's filled out that frame. The film is awesome. He doesn't get beat a lot. He's rock solid. Doesn't have the traits like an Ike Ekwonu and Evan Neal, but he's a guy who is extremely solid football player, and that's kind of what you're looking for. So we're kind of filling in that offense. But again, at the end of the day, Atlanta's also been plagued pretty good on the defense side of the ball. I think there is some sleeper. I mean, Adam Anderson is a guy that I just don't think you can draft with the serious charges that he has against him. Um, Big bully Marquand McCall is a guy that I really like. A guy that might fall is Josh Pascal. Two guys that I have my eyes on for the Atlanta Falcons. A guy who can stop the run, who's also can impact the passing game. I really like Malcolm Rodriguez. He is a tackling machine. You don't necessarily you want to get better against the run, get linebackers who can swarm to the ball. I think Malcolm Rodriguez is one of those. Again, my take on the linebacking class is in that mid-second, early third range, there are some absolute stud linebackers who I have very high grades on. Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, Leo Chenal, Brian Osmoa. All those guys I absolutely love, and they're very optimistic about how they're going to develop at the next level. If you miss out on those guys, I think Malcolm Rodriguez is a guy who you can look for and make your team immediately better. Cornerback, check, wide receiver, guard, center. Now you're just looking for guys who are going to round out this roster here. I really like Richie Graham from UCF last year. JT Woods is one of my favorite guys, but I'm kind of optimistic on the Richie Grant improvement. You got Adam Anderson still sitting there. He's a guy that, I mean, you got to figure out the legal stuff before you go get him, but a guy that I really like. This might be a time where you more look at like another Belichick. I can't watch Mike Davis run the football again. As an honorary Atlanta Falcons fan who is no doubt going to bet him again this year just because I'm an absolute idiot. I don't want to see him run the football again. He's got no juice. And I was the one who goes and gets Mike Davis high in fantasy football. Again, bad fantasy owner. Got a lot to work on in that department. Let's go check out the running backs. Get a guy who's young. You don't want to be signing. I like the Cordell Patterson signing because he does a little bit more than just carry the football. But you don't want to be signing running backs to big deals after their rookie deal. Go get a guy in their rookie deal who's extremely good. There are a lot of good running backs in this class. I like Hassan Haskins, obviously a Michigan guy who's he's a lunch pail. He's gonna bring his lunch pail to work. He's gonna grind you down and get yards. It's not always pretty, but he gets it done. Abram Smith's another guy that I like. We're gonna go with Hassan Haskins. I think that's kind of what Atlanta might want to need. Hassan Haskins is another extremely high character guy from Michigan. Very good on special teams as well. And when you're picking in round 6, you want to get guys who are bringing value not only at that one position because they might not play at that position, but do they offer value at the special teams position? I think Hassan Haskins will do that. And you're filling in kind of a need that I can't do it. I can't watch Mike Davis run the ball anymore. Go get a young running back who you can give some touches to. He's going to get you some hard yards. Last pick of the draft, again, looking for a guy who's just maybe going to make an impact. A guy who's maybe a development guy. Again, we don't think Atlanta's going to be competing for anything special the next couple of years. Get a guy who maybe down the road will bring some juice to your team. Want to check the defensive line again because I know there's some guys that I like at the end of this class, interior or outside, and I think the Atlanta Falcons, they just need work there. Christopher Allen's a guy that I really like. Trey Williams is a guy that I really like. Alex Wright is 6'7". I like his game a lot too. How about the linebacking core? We'll look at cornerback real quick because there are a few guys who are offering some good value there at cornerback as well. Vinny Gray. And I don't want to go with another Michigan guy. I don't want to bore you guys with another Michigan pick, even though I do like Vinny Gray. Even though I do like Vinny Gray a lot. Check the interior offensive line as well. And then we'll make our pick, I promise. Kalen Barnes. Kalen Barnes is an absolute flyer. What you don't see on his film is breaking on the ball hard. But I think he's a guy that you can develop. He's got the traits to do it. He's a flyer. He's going to run with any wide receiver in the league. And at the very least, he's going to be a good gunner for y'all. 4.3 speed. He's going to get down the field and make plays. You're trying to find guys who are going to make impacts on the game, not necessarily at their position if they're not getting much burn, but on special teams. I think Kalen Barnes, round 7, the fastest guy at the combine, he's worth the flyer pick. He's worth the flyer pick. You're out of picks. So this was actually early round 6. So overall for the Atlanta Falcons, you're drafting for the future. You don't necessarily need to. If you're the Tampa Bay Bucks, you got a chance to win this year. You want to get a guy like Zion Johnson, a guy that you know who's going to come in and play high-quality football right off the bat. Atlanta Falcons, go get guys who are going to be good, who are going to be developmental guys who are going to be good for you in 2 or 3 years, like a Malik Willis. So we start off the draft with Malik Willis. Yes, is it a reach on the quarterback? Yeah, they give us an F because PFF's obsessed with numbers. I think it's an interesting pick because you're starting that rebuild. Go get a guy with just an extremely, extremely high ceiling. The argument against it would be, all right, let's just take a down year with Marcus Mariota and go get a Bryce Young or go get a CJ Stroud next year. I understand that reasoning too, but if Malik Willis is on the board at 8, I'm not necessarily trading capital up for him. He's available at 8. I think he's worth a flyer. George Pickens is a guy who's a first-round talent who's just falling because of the injuries. You watch the film as him as a true freshman. There's not really a better guy going up contested than George Pickens in this class. Nick Bonito, I'm a little concerned about the fit for the Atlanta Falcons, but he's a guy that has a great get-off. He uses his hands. He's got good bend around the edge. PFF gave us an A+, but he's one of the best pass rushers in the game coming out of college. Just struggles against the run a little bit. Christian Watson, a D+. I mean, Christian Watson is a guy from the FCS. I get it. He didn't really have much time to cook there at North Dakota State because it's kind of a ground and pound offense, but he moves extremely well for a 6'4" guy. He runs a 4.3 40. There's not really much 10-inch hands. There's not much you don't like about this kid. I think in round 3, at a huge position of need, if he's there, you go up and take him. I think Wayndale Robinson's also a very good look there. Marcus Jones at 82. I'm a huge Marcus Jones fan. Make no secrets about it. And then you're just getting guys who just played good football at the college football level. Zach Tom, an all-ACC tackle, first-teamer. Malcolm Rodriguez, first-team All-Big 12 linebacker from Oklahoma State. Hassan Haskins, an absolute beast at Michigan, kind of was an integral part in that Michigan running attack. And then Kalen Barnes, a guy who's kind of a combine warrior. You're taking a little flyer on the speed. He's probably going to give you some value in the special teams. That's a mock on the Atlanta Falcons. Once again, appreciate you guys rocking with the ROC Boys. Like and subscribe if you guys like the content, and we'll be back with some more NFL talk, college football talk as we go. Talk to you guys later. Peace.